Couldn't pay me to vote for a Democrat. Local, state, federal elections, I don't care what it is, you couldn't pay me to vote for one. You know why? Because they know that we, and I mean people whose skin color look like mine, they know that we vote party over interest. So after we vote, what do? They don't need us for anything. That's what they do, year after year after year. I'm from Baltimore, and I go home at least twice a year to see family. Same abandoned homes, same crime rate. We haven't had a Republican mayor since the 60s. And look at our environment. The same can be said for Memphis. The same can be said for St. Louis. The same can be said for Detroit. The same can be said for a lot of these cities all over this country that have been led down the toilet by Democrats for decades. Stop voting party over interest and vote interest over party.
A registered Democrat? No, I'm not voting for Joe Biden. Sorry, not sorry. I don't know how else to put this. Like, you can't pay me enough, you can't gaslight me enough, you can't feed me those weak talking points. I'm not voting for him. I don't see how anybody in the right state of mind can look at what's going on right now, nationally and internationally, and scream Biden 2024. It will not sit well with my spirit to know that I cast a ballot for someone like him. This whole concept of gaslighting people into voting for Biden because he's better than Trump, I'm letting you know it's far gone.
For me, okay, back in 2016, I flew from Tokyo, Japan, where I live, to come back here to make sure I voted for Donald Trump. He's not your average politician. He's a guy that makes mistakes, that say things that are stupid, because we all do stupid things. We do crazy things. The black community don't know what Donald Trump did for black people. Trump is a business person, and I like the way he negotiates. You know, and he when we had him as president, we didn't have a lot. We had respect. America was respected. He is definitely looking out for the best interests of America.
Do you smell that? What you smell is panic. What you smell is abject fear. These kinds of videos are popping up every single day. They used to come in as a trickle. Now it's beginning to have a steady stream building up to a deluge. Remember back a couple years ago, Donald Trump asked the black community directly, what do you have to lose?
Look how much African American communities have suffered under Democratic control. To those I say the following: what do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? What do you have to lose?
Many blacks weren't ready to do that kind of introspection. The gaslighting and brainwashing has been so intense for decades that most black people couldn't extricate themselves from it. But now, many black people are asking themselves that question and doing that necessary introspection. And many of them are waking up and realizing, Donald Trump was right. So many have been on the plantation for so very long, they didn't realize they had the key to their own freedom. For many, they thought if they couldn't score touchdowns, dunk a basketball, or sing a rap album, that they were pretty much destined to be in the spot that they are. And the Democrats wanted you to think that way and stay that way. Some of us were lucky enough to have entrepreneurial parents who showed us, hey, there is a way out of this. You can do whatever you want to do. Nobody is holding you back. But many got left behind, imprisoned by their own state of mind. Many of us know inner cities that seem like they're stuck in a time warp. They just never changed. Decades later, and they're still the same. I recently saw a news broadcast about an area in Hartford, Connecticut, nearby where I grew up. My parents told me back then not to go to that neighborhood, to avoid it at all costs, especially at night. 40, 50 years later, that neighborhood is still a shithole in Hartford, Connecticut. You have to ask yourself, don't people say, hey man, what's wrong? And the answer to that question is that people were brainwashed. They were gaslit. They didn't ever ask themselves or dare ask themselves the question, what have you got to lose? Every single one of those inner cities, whether it be Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Maryland, Detroit, Michigan, Cleveland, Ohio, fill in the blank, every single one of those inner cities has one thing in common. And that one thing is that they are Democrat plantations. They have been run by Democrats for decades, some of them as long as 50 and 60 years with no change, complete poverty, nothing going on except for poverty and crime. People aren't expected to ask themselves that question, what do you have to lose? They're actually told not to ask that question. They are told that there's a boogeyman that's responsible for keeping you in the situation that you are. Because asking that question, what do you have to lose, is horrifying. Because the answer means you've been bamboozled, you've been hoodwinked, you've been lied to, you've been played for decades. But fortunately, many black people are finally waking up and seeing the light and extricating themselves from that ghetto mentality. But to me, it's stunning that the reason some black people are waking up is they finally see, they look around and go, hey man, I'm being replaced.
So they bringing them in, you wonder where the money coming from? They taking it, the fund that was here, that money. You talking about all the pro housing programs. So when people pay rent, all the rental programs, that money, all the programs that we have in the city of Chicago, they are bankrupting us.
Who did you vote for?
I have no problem with saying that. I did vote for Biden.
This migrant influx that we're dealing with right now, this is your fault.
Step aside. You've been dismissed. You're no longer needed. We got 10 million new voters to reward, and we don't need you anymore. So, get to stepping. Now that so many of the programs, the social programs that were designed to keep black people on the plantation are being diverted to the newcomers, if you will, people are starting to say, hey, wait a second. What the hell's going on here? Well, that answer that you should have asked yourself a long time ago, what do you have to lose? Well, what you have to lose is when they don't need you anymore. It's amazing to me that what may be the downfall of the Democrats is the arrogance of thinking you owned the black community, literally and figuratively, and that they would never ever wake up. Check out these recent news clips that underscore what I've just been saying.
So let's break this down by race, right? Let's look at voters of color, look at white voters. And what we see here is back in 2020, according to the exit poll, Joe Biden won voters of color in Michigan by 62 points. Look at that advantage today. It has been sliced by a third, only 21 points. That's Joe Biden.
Now, understand if you're math challenged, Biden barely won the last election. And since that last election, which he won, he's lost 40% of the black vote. He's never going to lose 100% because that's just not possible. Some of them are still stuck on the plantation. But if you only won by a smidgen, supposedly, and you lost 40% of the black vote, I think anyone who can do the math here and see, that's why the newcomers are being welcomed and why the black people are being told, hit the skids.
Biden's lead over Donald Trump among voters of color. Among white voters, Donald Trump has gained a little bit of steam as well. It was 11 points in 2020. His margin over Joe Biden right now is 16 points. But this decline in support for Joe Biden among voters of color in Michigan is something we've been seeing in state after state after state and nationally as well, where he's got some big problems. This is a historic low amount of support for a Democratic presidential candidate among voters of color, and it seems to be happening across the board.
Now imagine if they showed that on CNN. The White House has to know that already. They know they're in deep trouble. So you're going to see Biden go out there and talk to people and eat fried chicken with them and stuff like that. But meanwhile, you've got Donald Trump saying, what do you got to lose? Are you going to just do the same thing you've always done? Or are you going to change things up? What do you have to lose? And now this next clip is from the Young Turks. And the Young Turks are not Republican. They are completely the antithesis of a Republican. They are a left-leaning organization, and you'll be amazed at what they said.
Another day, another poll showing Democrats losing ground with demographics that they typically had widespread support among.
It wasn't widespread support. It was gaslighting and brainwashing. That way they just had that support locked in, never had to question it.
Now, a new poll by Gallup shows that Democrats are particularly losing support among Black and Hispanic adults. The Democratic Party's wide lead over Republicans in Black Americans' party preferences has shrunk by nearly 20 points over the past 3 years, in just 3 years.
Only one person you can thank for that.
We're seeing this trend continue where the voting demographic that Democrats can typically rely on
See, that's where the problem was. I don't think you should typically, quote, rely on any demographic. You should have to earn people's votes. You shouldn't have to just rely on it. She just spoke the absolute truth. They have relied on the black vote. They have built their campaigns and everything based upon the blacks ain't going nowhere. They know where they're supposed to be. They know to stay in line, but not now. And that's a problem.
They're dwindling now, and some of them are unaffiliated. They're not really registering as Republicans. Others are registering as Republicans. Now, Democrats lead among Hispanic adults and adults ages 18 to 29 have slid nearly as much as the black vote, resulting in Democrats holding only a modest edge in both of those groups.
A modest edge in both groups. Mathematically, that's doomsday for the Democrats, and they know it, which is why we have so many newcomers coming to America. I have to say the word newcomers because certain people who like to click buttons may not like us calling them what they really are. But what they really are replacement for the black vote. Y'all been phased out. Y'all been dismissed. If you didn't recognize it, you should now. If and when black people realize that they've been discarded like yesterday's old dinner, things may change in 2024. And as a black man, I'm speaking to y'all right now. Look in the mirror. Slap yourself in the face. Wake up. Get mad. Anger means you actually care. Your indifference for decades is why many black people are in the position they're in right now. You want to see things change? Don't go see your pastor. Don't go to a rally. It starts with you. The Democrats have farmed the black plantation to dust. There's nothing left. They're moving on without you. You're yesterday's crops as far as they're concerned. You're basically just strange fruit to them. And they're doing their best to make you think you're some boogeyman under the bed. So in closing, I just have one single question for you. Lean in. Let's do a little bit of Joe Biden here. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? You better answer that question honestly, because it might be your last chance to do so. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Democrats basically discarding the black community and some in the Latino community and saying, hey, we got our newcomers. We're welcoming 10 million new voters and we don't need you anymore. Talk to you soon.
So they bringing them in. You wonder where the money coming from? They taking it, the fund that was here, that money. You talking about all the housing programs. So when people pay rent, all the rental programs, that money, all the programs that we have in the city of Chicago, they are bankrupting us.
Who did you vote for?
I have no problem with saying that I did vote for Biden.
This migrant influx that we're dealing with right now, this is your fault.
Look how much African American communities have suffered under Democratic control. To those I say the following: what do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? What do you have to lose?
This Sunday, campus